With that in mind, I'm going to introduce you to Mr. Brian Pash. Please put your hands together for him and the panel.
Thank you. We'll duck under the covers here. All right. We have a great panel for you today on a hot topic. We have some microphones to pass around. We're doing great. How was your morning sessions? Wow, that wasn't really good. How was your morning sessions? All right, gentlemen, have a seat. What we will do is we'll start with one microphone all the way on the right, my right with Jacques, and let's have each of the members of today's panel introduce themselves and the company they're with. So let's start down with Jacques.
I'm Jacques Showalter, President of Dealer.
Adam Barish, I'm a dealer from Route 23 Honda and Route 46 Chevrolet.
Let's make sure that's on. There we go. I'm Darren Wade. I'm the dealer principal of Power Ford.
I'm Hunter Swift with Dealer Socket.
I'm Hugh Hathcock, owner of eLead One.
Sean Stapleton with VIN Solutions.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So we have two dealers on today's panel. One to talk about the future of CRM. As I travel around the country, working with dealers on their digital strategy, I think the biggest profit leak is not whether someone's doing SEO, whether they're using AdWords, whether they're good at social media. It's how they're answering phone calls or not, and how they're responding to leads. It truly is the biggest profit leak, because when we listen to phone calls, when we look into the CRM systems, well, let me ask you a question. How was the last time you listened to the phone calls at your dealership? Did anybody have that little agita feeling, little acid reflux going on, listening to how the phone calls were done? One of the interesting developments in our industry is the CRM has been evolving and evolving, but I'm not sure if the dealers have been able to keep up. And today we'd like to talk about what are some of those challenges. Where is CRM going? Mobile CRM is definitely one of the new buzz points in our industry, but then also what about all the data associated with today's consumer shopping experience? How can we leverage all that data into the CRM? I'd like to ask Darren Wade, who's the dealer principal of Power Ford. Darren mentioned something in our pre-warm-up about the cultural change that must be addressed at the dealership because of the generations of dealership ownership. And Darren, the shortened version, tell everyone a little bit about what you see as the cultural problems that are addressing dealers today.
You know, what we talk about with our team, thanks. What we talk about with our team is, we don't need microphones at Power Ford, but we talk about the generation or the history of the car business only being 100 years old, and that most buyers go through about a 25-year cycle of purchasing. And I think most dealers that we deal with today, I was fortunate to be raised by the old school guys. And if you think about that, we see a lot of third, which is about 1950 to 1975. And we see a lot of fourth, the 1975 to 2000 dealers that are out there. And we also have a lot of those customers. And I think a lot of us don't understand that we've got customers that are used to that scenario. But we also have a lot of dealers that are also used to that scenario. We see a lot of fourth generation customers in our stores these days. They do the back and forth negotiations. We have managers that understand brick and mortar, and they get wiggy if you don't have somebody up in your customer out on the lot. But what about that virtual dealership? Do those managers, much less does the general manager or the dealer principal, do they even understand what that means? Sometimes we have to break it down for our own general managers, because those were the same guys that told you that a computer never sold a car, and they didn't own a cell phone, right? But I know just about every dealer that I know of now has a cell phone, so they can even learn that thing too. The point is, we're 13 model years into the 5th generation, and we also have 5th generation customers. Those are the customers that are utilizing, and that CRM absolutely has to hit because A, they're not loyal, and they've got an attention span worse than a car dealer. It's about 2 seconds. And so we need to be communicating with them quicker because they're not going to do 4 hours on buying a car. And the question is that, or the answer to that deal is understanding that culture and that dealer. Most dealers are 4th generation dealers, in my opinion, right now. And they need to understand the 5th generation customer, or that dealership gets left behind. So I think in a nutshell, that's kind of where we really need to start the discussion on the future of CRM and really get it to a level that a general manager can understand, one that's been successful since 1950 or since 1975.
You know, the comment that the best CRM is the one that people use is really true. In this room, there are many different CRM platforms being used, and some are being used very well, and others are just minimally used. One of the challenges that we need to talk about today is what are the barriers for getting your team, your leaders to become CRM centric. Would you agree with me that one of the biggest challenges we have is getting the leadership to put accountability into your CRM process? True? So, Hunter, you have the mic. How will future CRM technology or strategies help dealers inject inspection, do better with accountability? What has to change from software, philosophy, culture? Because I walk into too many dealerships and, well, no one's looking at the processes and if they're being completed.
Yeah, I think the key to CRM is to really understand that it should be enabling processes at your dealership. And when you look at the first CRMs that were out there, they were really just a tool to manage leads. And then later it became software that would manage the showroom traffic and the phones. And what we've kind of got away from is really about managing the relationship. You know, we should be getting personal with our customers and really developing a relationship with that customer, calling them back, doing those type of things. And if you set up these processes at the dealership that might work, the only way that you're going to have any results is if they're doing what you're expect them to do. And so you have to make sure that your CRM is integrated with the phone system so that you know what kind of calls they're doing, or if they're not making their calls, integrate it with your phone on your cell phone so they can't use the excuse that they made all their calls from their cell phone. Being able to really just take that old mentality of even having like an old desk log that a lot of dealers have used or even still use, and really incorporating technology so that we can maximize every opportunity and then really hold these people accountable. So with some type of a checkout report or a daily activity report where managers can then manage their salespeople and say, look, this is what you did today, this is what you haven't, this is what you still need to do, and then they can use that as a training or an opportunity.
Let me ask the audience by a show of hands, how many of you have implemented a mobile CRM solution that your sales force is using? Mobile CRM. Okay. Sean, what is mobile CRM doing to change the way in which we deliver a better customer experience? And what are the challenges at the dealership level getting their team to adopt a mobile strategy?
First of all, Brian, I really think we got to start with what's really changed isn't the future of CRM, it's the customer. So start there, because without customers we have nothing, right? So first, what's changed? Has the auto industry changed less in the last 5 years or more than ever in the last 15? Will it continue to evolve faster and faster? It will. What you're seeing is mobile is a reflection of what the consumers want. Okay? It's a buy now. It's an immediate gratification society we live in. If you don't give me the data now, I will simply move on, right? There are not things that is called primary marketing areas. The internet destroyed PMAs. It's over. So when you look at things like the future of CRM and mobile, which is a big portion of it, you got to start with what are the customers' desires? How do they want to buy and shop? Number one. And then number two, what technologies can do the heavy lifting to help you support your customers' needs the way they want to be served? And the biggest difference, Brian, is The mobile gives you the ability to serve the customers in real time, the way they want the data, and they want to be perceived. If you don't follow that path, they're simply going to hit the back button or hang up and move on.
So we have changes in technology, we have changes in the consumer shopping experience, maybe additional training that is needed. Hugh, you've been in this business a long time, and you know the practical reality that no matter what processes are in place, there's turnover in management, there's training. How do we help dealers that are still, they buy this funny widget and they're still struggling with process? Brian, yep, we had that CRM system installed, we had the trainers. 1 month later, they're not using the processes. What can we do as an industry to help dealers be more successful with CRM technology?
That's a big problem that we see, and all of my partners or competitors or whatever you want to call them see in this business. We all go into dealerships with the best intentions. The dealer has the best intention when he buys it, and you have a great training week. Trainer goes in and he leaves, and then 3 weeks later the dealer is not utilizing the tool to the level that he needs to. As a company, we believe in this business you've got to have great support, which means at our company we believe you have to have a multi-level of customer support, from a performance team in-house to an account manager in that store monthly. But even with that level of support, we still see a lot of failure with the system, whether it's utilization, tasks being left undone, many areas. So what we're trying to do at Elite is come up with ways to automate this so we do it for the dealer. Of course, he has a choice in what he wants done based on ROI of that task, but the more we can use technology in conjunction with the greatest customer support, we want to give them the ability to automate a phone call, a text, an email, whatever, if his salesperson or internet person doesn't do a task. So we've seen products like Ava that have been out in the business that dealers go pay a lot of money for, to support their stores. We've built all that. So we believe the future of CRM is automating some of these technologies, so if a task gets undone by a human in the store, that at a certain time period, 2 days, it gets done, whether it's through a call center or whatever.
Gets done one way or the other. So
Correct.
Adam, you're a dealer principal. Why is it so hard in today's generation, with all the research that Google has shared, Polk has shared, J.D. Powers has shared, that consumers are visiting 1.3 dealerships, they're doing their primary research online, that if you respond to a lead in 5 minutes, your opportunity to get an appointment just climbs off the roof. You have all the tools, you want to sell more cars. Why is Hugh's reality, the reality I see around the country, that with all this great technology, we can't seem to execute on the basics of CRM?
I think that takes a certain technological savvy in order to be able to use some of the technology. So there's not a one-size-fits-all CRM, and that's what we're seeing here, is that you need to make it easy enough for the person who ends up selling cars because they couldn't be that computer engineer or whatever it is. They have to be able to put that information in easily. They have to be able to use it. We keep wanting them to do more and more video. We're seeing that in the booths here. How do they get that video out to their customers? They have to have a CRM that they can click a button, go to their library, add that to their email, and send it out. It's just got to be something that's simplified or dumbed down, but still be very technologically savvy.
We see a tremendous amount of email templates around the country. At some point, every dealer is sending out some type of email response, some type of communication to a customer. The real question is, how can we start differentiating ourselves? How can those email communications be better to convert, to make us stand out? Someone want to talk to the point of what things are coming in regards to CRM to help a dealer stand out in the zero moment of truth, to differentiate their CRM response, their communication from one of their local competitors. Anybody want to take that one?
Look, at the end of the day, the dealers are a brand. And if you're not a brand, you're selling a commodity. How do you win the commodities business? You sell at the cheapest level. That doesn't do us any good in this room at all. The reality is the industry is seeing more pressure on margins, and will continue to see more pressure on margins. I see the consumer changing and wanting things more like society, faster and served up. The beginning, it starts at the top. You asked at the very, very beginning, why don't we see better utilization on CRM? You are. You're just not seeing it everywhere. Everyone in this room is not going to win, Brian. Point blank. I mean, I don't mean to be a downer, but we don't give 12-place ribbons out, right? The deal is that the most powerful piece of software a dealer uses today is what? CRM. And the definition of what CRM has changed completely. CRM used to be just an ILM, just a responser, metrics, right? It is going to move to behavioral targeting. It's going to move to an artificial intelligence, if you will. Hugh, you brought up Ava, for example. Great company. They are the example of where the future is starting to go. You're going to see data, big data. We've been talking about this for years. Data drives analytics. Analytics drives better decision making. Point blank, proven.
Right.
You've seen technology change where you see websites and CRM are integrated together. There's no doubt 2.5 years ago that was proven as a major competitive advantage. You're going to see these things continue to move forward. The core of what you're seeing is each and every one of us have to make the culture change that we're going to use these tools to our advantage. How do we get our employees to do it? You got to tell them what's in it for them. What's the advantage of using the tool? It's no longer from click to brick and mortar. It's from click to hip. Because if you don't respond and someone else does, you lost that opportunity. So it's culture, number one. Number two, it's the environment. Number three, it's the actual industry itself. It's forcing these changes. And the people that embrace this earlier will have a competitive advantage.
So we've heard this culture, training, some challenges. Darren, at your dealership, how are you getting your team to be more CRM centric? How are you getting them to live and breathe in the CRM, or are you really not?
Well, how many dealers or general managers are in the audience? Have you guys ever taken a test on your own CRM? Do they even have a test for you to take? And if they don't, you should have one. Because I think that if we have turnover is usually towards the bottom, isn't it? Our frontline people. And usually hopefully our general sales manager and our CRC director. If you go back to your store and you ask them, what is our process for when an internet lead comes in, what do we do? If they can't do it from their head, your guy's not plugged in. If your GSM doesn't know what that is without having to go look at a manual or go look at a written down process, you might not even have that. So maybe first you ought to write it down and you ought to test them. The point is that I believe the reason why we have the hardest time with this is that the guy running the store or the guy that owns the store doesn't know how to do it himself. So they don't need to do it themselves because that's what you pay your people for. But you at least have to understand from start to finish how a CRM works. And from sitting in dealer 20 groups, I can guarantee you that most of that stuff at about 2 sentences goes over their head. The point is you need to become personally invested. There are technology tools out there, and I'm no different than every other manager that's out there. We've got multiple things going on at the same time, and it should be about relationship building in front of customers or sensitivity trainings with our managers, and I'm not in front of my computer all the time. I want that technology when somebody on my phone system misses a phone call and they don't set an appointment. There's technology that will go straight to my phone that will tell me who it was, who called, and which one of my agents missed it. And I don't have to be at my desk. I can be in the middle of a meeting and I can forward that phone call to the department head that's responsible for that. To me, that's an example of how you do that from the top down. Do you have a process on your internet side that when everything that you think is going on and it doesn't in a time frame that an email comes out to your customer from you with your cell phone number on it, with your personal email address on it? Or is are we just too busy being busy at our level, and we don't want to talk to the very people that have choices? Those customers, you know, those ones that actually pay for our store. Those are two examples that I've got on what we do at our dealership.
Jacques, tell me a little bit about your perspective working with dealers, obviously seeing technology change the face of CRM. What do you see is the biggest challenge ahead for dealers in the evolution of CRM? Where are you seeing that you need to adapt your model to get dealers to connect with your product?
This has been mentioned before, but I think clearly, by far and large, it is changing the mindset of the dealer principal, because all of this great technology, and it's going to get better, and it's going to be connected to your automobiles, and there's going to be Google Glasses and all this crazy stuff that everybody in this audience is going to want to use. But if it's not a part of your culture, you're going to have two choices. You're going to go find a dealer that has the culture that's going to support this great stuff that you can do because it affects the bottom line, or you're going to be able to convince your dealer principal that, hey, what is our culture? There's great ways we can interact and take care of our customers. There's lots of great technologies to do it, and I'd love to drive that effort, but you got to be behind me. Until more of those conversations are held and positive outcomes where the dealer says, you know, you're right. This has to be a part of our culture. A lot of dealers manage their business by their statement. They need to start managing it by the metrics in their CRM tool. Once you see that shift at the top level of how they're managing their business, because they're entrepreneurs, they can get this eventually, and it's up to us to convince them. Once they do, then you'll see an explosion of utilization. But until that happens, vendors and everybody out at this stage and progressive dealers, managers will be going through the brain damage of trying to get this in place consistently. So I think that's our number one goal.
Hunter, respond to that and also make a comment of what you're seeing as cultural shifts in regards to getting mobile adoption at the dealership.
Absolutely. You know, this panel is called The Future of CRM, and I think we can come up here and talk about all these new features that are coming out, and I think for the most part, you know, a lot of, at least the companies that are up here, have been very innovative. You know, when I started, 9 years ago at DealerSocket, it was a web-based tool, and my competitors were server-based, and, you know, dealers, you guys would say, well, I don't know if my data is safe, and what happens if the internet goes down? And, you know, you're seeing these innovative companies who built these platforms on this, you know, web-based. We've been able to expand. And before we can even talk about the future, we still have dealers that are using very old and annotated products and services and, you know, server-based. And a lot of the things that we'd like to talk to about and do, a lot of people are still using that. And so going to the second question in regards to mobile, about really changing the culture is, you know, I heard a statistic that only 25 to 35% of fresh ups are being captured on your lot. And, you know, you look and you see, well, why is that? And, you know, maybe they forgot their name, they get busy, or for whatever reason. But when you use a mobile CRM, it changes things. You know, you have the ability to add that customer into your CRM right when you talk to them. And then when you talk to them and you say, hey, you know, you're interested in this Toyota. Hey, you know what? I have a great video or a great brochure I want to send you. What's your email address? And the customer doesn't feel that they're being put into a system. They're not behind a desk. And so not only am I capturing more ups, which data that we've looked at, we're seeing an increase of 33%, but we're also capturing more cell phones. We're getting more email addresses. And it really allows us to be a salesperson 24 hours a day. You know, I can be at the bank. As somebody sees that I work at, you know, a Toyota dealership, and then next thing you know, I can start talking to them. I can input the customer. If I get a happy birthday notification on my day off, I can call that customer. So it's really changing the whole dynamic of the culture of the salesperson, of really being a professional 24-hour salesperson.
Hugh?
He talked about culture change. The hundreds and hundreds of dealers that we put in every year, it takes a long time to change culture. Dealers aren't patient with most of us CRM vendors. They want to see immediate profit. They want to see things get better fast. They want to sell more cars, more service. We don't have time to wait on a culture change. And, you know, that takes the top-down thing we've all talked about. So we've got to attack this at a different level, in my opinion. I mean, Culture change takes years. They have to have a vision. Vision is, sometimes they don't want their CRM partner to tell them how to run their store. They really want us to help them sell more cars and service, but they want us to do the majority of the work and make their people better. So the way we look at it is you've got to have people in the store that really understand and can get into the manager's head. The guy that's the owner that we sell isn't going to go out and in most cases run the deal as far as the CRM side. So your managers are key. You've got to get those people bought in so they're the power users, not just the internet or the BDC, which are typically have been the power users in our business over the last 30 years that I've been in business. So we have a structure where, okay, you got to train the managers, you got to have account people in the store every month that are not keystroke trainers, but they're actually car guys. Because a manager doesn't want to listen to a 25-year-old kid out of college that comes in and says, here's this great technology. He has to understand the car business.
Right.
Then you have to support it every month with unbelievable customer support as a company, and then you put in front of the manager, somebody said earlier about the dealer needs to see something coming to him easy. We have all types of metrics, but dealers want to see metrics that are positive metrics on improvement and selling more cars, and we automate all that, so he's able to see all that.
Yeah, so what we see is, depending on where we are in the country, we have high utilization of CRM, low utilization. I think education, our industry needs to do a much better job of understanding why. I remember being in a room full of 45 salespeople, and I asked them what percentage of their ups do they capture email addresses for. And it was just unbelievable how low it was. Well, maybe 15%, 10%, 20%. And I asked them the question why, and they really didn't understand how that email address snowballed like a domino effect on the entire follow-up process. So I think we need to do a better job of training our salespeople on the why behind the power of CRM. Let me take a little shift, and we're going to have a microphone going around somewhere. I'm not sure who is, oh, there we do have. So as we have some questions from the audience here in a minute, I'd like our guests here to ask our panel of experts some questions. But let me take a little shift. In general, we're hearing about big data. How many of you have been approached or heard a company called Dadium? Dadium, right? Many of you have heard them, right? We've seen studies from Cobalt and AutoTrader about the consumer shopping experience and Dadium and how they're touching all these multiple touch points. I will say, ladies and gentlemen, our industry has yet to tap into big data in the CRM. But if I was working an internet lead and I was able to get some signals or cues from what type of shopper this was, I believe I could be more effective in what response to send out. Now, I was at an executive meeting recently and there was some confusion about this, and I'd like to get some feedback from the audience. This group of executives felt that if you took big data and put this information in a CRM, the average salesperson would have no clue whatsoever on what to do if it said, well, they visited AutoTrader and they looked at this, and they visited, KBB and looked at this, and they were over here. They're like, absolutely not. But there was this thought that maybe some general signals or categories, put some in, this looks like this type of buyer. So for the people in the audience here, I do believe we're going to get to a point where the future of CRM will start to bring in some shopper behavior to customize response to consumers. And that is going to revolutionize our business. Because today, and Hugh and I were talking earlier, the practical reality is managers leave, people quit, and dealers can't leave their internet processes screwed up for 2 or 3 months while you figure out how to hire new people. There has to be backstops. And there needs to be alerts, like Darren was saying. But most of the alerts and automation that we do isn't as intelligent as I believe the future will be. as predictive and behavior models come out from this big data, I think we're going to really see another level of dealers who embrace technology to differentiate themselves in that zero moment of truth. So for people here in the audience, if you have a question on your vision for the future, if anybody wants to raise their hand, for anyone on the panel, a question on where the CRM is going, I want you to just be able to raise your hand. And we have a microphone coming around. Okay, we have someone raise their hand. Here she comes. This panel is for you. What you can ask the question to any of the panel members. What's your challenge as a general manager?
Yeah, Keenan Pyatt, General Manager for Lithia Toyota of Abilene. E-Lead, we use e-leads. Matter of fact, I think I've got every product you have. We've done some major changes within our dealership to change the management structure away from, the typical dealership where you've got 3 guys behind a desk jockeying to work car deals. But I'm seeing a need for a new position, which is, I'm sure, out there. A person that actually manages the CRM, that's their full-time job, to actually go in there, mine the data, and utilize it because, like you said, I know how to use e-leads. I'm pretty proficient at it, but I don't feel like, I'm good enough and I can't spend all my time just managing that. So, maybe a best practice, are you seeing that position actually develop within dealerships?
In the most successful stores, whether they're on e-lead, VIN, dealer socket, there's always a champion that is a power user of the tool. We have a training process where we bring these people in and try to cultivate those. They're ID'd at our stores at week 1 of install. So we're going to find that person. We see that as we've got to find that person for you. We've got to come to the dealer or the GM and say, hey, we want to bring these people to our corporate headquarters. We want to make them the best in our system. And we believe very, very passionately that if you've got a champion or a CRM manager, that they'll understand the full capabilities of the tool. So, we bring in 300 to 500 people, depending on the year, to do that type of training. There's no charge. We pay for everything. We think that that's a huge investment that we can help you make that will let's help you take your CRM to the next level.
How many dealers here say, I really don't have that super user that's looking and living in the CRM every day? I don't have that super user. Yeah, okay. So what's the challenges? Sean, your thoughts on...
I want to go back to one thing quick.
Yeah.
I want to know who those executives were that made that decision on big data.
Yeah.
Right? Because do they work in a store or on a store? Right? Because if you take an average, excellent internet manager, so let's see if people were a digital dealer last year. Kevin Fry made an incredibly aggressive comment. Kevin Fry said, with new technology, I know more about an internet lead than I do a call or a walk-in.
Yeah.
What does he mean by that? He has the ability to use the data points to see the purchase journey. Why is that important? And how does that work? Well, things like understanding the equity of their current car, the pencils of their last deal, the road to the sale, what cars they're looking at in real time, and what incentives you can use to your advantage to increase your profitability. I think that's not hard work. I think that's called smart work. And I'll also tell you this, the dealers like you and everybody else talk about, the progressive dealers, they're already doing this. They started years ago. The technology's getting better. When we acquired Haystack for one reason. The ROI was too compelling not to. When we were at Google, they made a very interesting comment. They said technology's advancing faster and faster. Why? Because good technology takes the technology out of technology, which means there are no more barriers. And the barriers that are out there today are either artificial barriers or poor leadership barriers.
Okay. Hunter?
Going back to this change of culture, if you just look at the classes that you've attended today or what people have talked about, there's still this emphasis on driving traffic to your dealership. We're still paying a lot of money for leads. We're all of our focus is really in regards to advertising and buying leads, where we have this great customer database in our CRM, and we know more about this customer than we've ever known before, and more than we ever know on any lead that's coming in. We know every time they visited, what cars they've looked at, what do they own, as you mentioned, trade evaluation. We know bank programs, manufacturer incentives. We have all of this data within our CRM, but often we're not using the technology or even just processes to mine the customers that we do have versus paying for a lead, $25 that might be going to multiple dealerships. So really having somebody, some successful dealerships have even incorporated a fourth source. We know the three sources: phone, internet, and Fresh Up. But having this fourth source where all they're doing is just mining data and creating opportunities. And the real power of a CRM is about creating opportunities or identifying opportunities so that you can say, hey, this is a customer that's in an equity position, or that's high, out of warranty, high average RO, I can get them into a new vehicle. All of those dynamics are important things that we need to know that we have in the CRM that I think is very underutilized before we even get to the big data part.
So Hunter, great point. Is Brian Benstock in the room? I know he's going to be speaking, I think, today. Is Brian in the room? One of the workshops that are being offered at AutoCon is Brian Benstock, General Manager and Partner of Paragon Honda, selling 100 cars a month out of the service drive. Equity mining, I think, is in its infancy. There has been equity mining products out in the market, but I will tell you, bringing the CRM experience into the service drive, having a seamless integration of all this great data and integrating it into the service drive is still in its infancy with dealers across the country. And if you've been trying to implement a better sales process in the service drive, there's a number of workshops here at AutoCon, and I think it would be well worth your time learning about how service CRM has to be one of the future conversations that we address in this industry. So Adam, let's go to your store. Hunter brings up a point about equity mining, okay? There's been equity mining products. Do you have a regular program in the dealership for equity mining? And if you don't, what has been the challenge? Because we know the data's there.
Yeah, we've had different products that we've gone through, and we ultimately end up with a lot of products, whether it's in vehicle valuation or in the service drive, like you're saying, and we end up with companies that are better with performance managers attached to them, because it all comes back to process and avoidance of what I call process evaporation. And it happens to all of us. As you have these great things, you can document them, you can make nice flow charts, but unless you can stay on top of these things, you have the process, of putting the person in the CRM and greeting the customer. You have the road to the sale is the next process, the desking process, the follow-up process. And you have to have a level of accountability, which is the whole accountability process, from the dealer on down. So when you have those alerts like you were talking about, when a phone call doesn't go well and it goes to your hip, well, the same thing in a CRM. If follow-up's not getting done, we may get 10 phone calls a day, and I'm going to get one alert, but we may be having 100 contacts that are prescribed by the CRM, and if those contacts aren't being made, or they're not being made well, or the people aren't getting put in, I need to have that same alert on my hip. And it's all a matter of process and accountability. So if I, as dealer, don't hold my general managers accountable, who don't hold their general sales manager or service manager, down to the team leaders, down to the salesmen, there needs to be accountability, and it's all about continuing the processes and keeping them solid.
One of the things that you may have known about, I wrote last year extensively, a little bit more this year, on the Google Cars program. How many people are familiar with the Google Cars program? Okay, if you're not familiar with the Google Cars program, buckle up. Our industry will be going through another major shift in how consumers are going to interact with our vehicles. One of the very interesting things about the Google Cars program that's unique compared to any other, say, lead provider, is Google will fire you. They will fire you. And they actually have fired dealers. And you know why they're firing dealers? Because dealers aren't responding to phone calls and leads. Google's going to evolve into a very interesting partner with car dealers. They are helping dealers with data hygiene as an unintended consequence. And they are helping dealers, principals, when their own staff fail. For example, Google's philosophy is if a consumer fills out information on a lead and Google sends the dealer the lead, Google doesn't know what you say to the person, meaning they're not monitoring emails. They just know whether or not you sent an email, whether or not you called. And Google will send the dealer principal or someone a little text message, and say, hey, Bob, no one's responding to this lead. And if you continue providing a disappointing customer experience, they will fire you. And you will be very sad, because they will be very, very important into your sales acquisition strategy. That's the future. So in some respect, they would be the first third-party lead provider to force dealers into better data hygiene and communication practices. And that in itself is part of the future of CRM, because in their program, there's a limited number of times you're going to contact somebody and a limited number of times that you can call them until engagement happens. And so dealers who have CRM systems that auto-fire 10 emails over 3 days with no consumer contact will lose the ability to contact that lead. So the future of CRM has never been forced by a third-party lead company, but Google will be making sure that as a partner in your sales process. Very interesting opportunity. Questions?
Brian, one quick thing is
Yes.
that I think Microsoft did try that way back with CarPoint. What was that, 10 or 15 years ago? Which, of course, failed. I don't even know if they're still on there with that. What do you think is going to make Google different than Microsoft at that point?
Google's Google. Why will the Google Cars program succeed? They have the prime real estate. So your vehicles will be showing under the paid search at the top. Graphical images on a search results page get more clicks than, say, a text ad. And the question is whether they will succeed or not if their system provides an outstanding customer experience. I can't predict how fast consumers will realize something, but consumers submit leads on third-party sites and never get contacted by the dealer. At some point, when does a consumer say, hey, this doesn't work? But if consumers start to engage with the Google Cars program, Google makes sure that dealers respond in a timely manner and hold them accountable, and it provides a good customer experience in the most prime real estate with the most visually appealing advertising elements, I think they're going to succeed. Hunter?
You made an interesting comment about creating the ideal customer experience for our customers. CRM has an important role in that, about being able to respond to the customer and do all of these things. We want to make sure that, we're changing the culture even in regards to transparency at the dealership. How many times do we still have the negotiating at the desk and then the salesperson, goes to the manager and is, what's going on back there? And, we're seeing dealerships even change the desking and doing the desking right in front of them, allowing them to pick the payment versus pushing them into a payment. Those are some cultural changes that in the end the CRM is actually benefiting the consumer, and I think that's the true value of having dealerships really embrace this, because it will improve CSI, it will improve the time of sale, you hold more gross, things like that I think are crucial.
So from the audience, again, if you have questions from the panel regarding the future of CRM, I'll look, we have a hand over here. We need a microphone. Come on. Oh, go over here. Go over here.
Thank you. Paul Snell, Wilsonville, Toyota, and Landford Group up in Portland. This is for the dealer members on the panel, particularly Adam, when you mentioned about the savvy of our salespeople. I mean, the bulk of the data that's getting entered into our CRM is by our salespeople. So we know we got to have the right salespeople. What questions? How are we going to find those right people that we find them during a hiring process, and not find out after the fact that every lead they put in the system is from the same source, and they don't mind misspelling names and double entering people and things like that. What kind of things can we do during the hiring process to weed those people out?
You can certainly ask what their background is with computers, and if they can use Microsoft Word, if they can use Excel. I would have a better chance of being able to use a CRM. That's a great question, though, and you just triggered something for me, is maybe even to set up a test. You were talking about a test for how to use things. If we give them some basic instructions on how to put a customer in, we could test them before we even hire them. I know a lot of you guys have in your systems the driver's license scanners, is forcing people to use, put the thing here, hit the button, and get the data in. But, beyond that, it's the automation. If, I talked before, and I'll say it again briefly in the warm-up, is what about if when our salespeople are set up in the CRM, if they can be set up as a novice, as a moderate user, or as a power user, and the system would respond intelligently and either take over and start sending regular contacts to customers, or for the novice, and then for the advanced leaves them more in control of sending specific videos that might be in the video library on how to use the different vehicles, VIN specific and whatnot.
Great. There was another question over here. Over here. Microphone over here. Coming up from behind.
Thank you, Brian. I have a question for the vendors on the panel. CRM's a great tool and everything, but we talk about the personal purchase experience for customers when they walk in through the store. How do we make it personal, build a common ground, and do all that? But one thing that we struggle with is with the follow-ups with those customers is keeping up with that personal experience. You sell a car to somebody 3 years ago, they show up 3 years older, you probably don't remember what they look like or don't remember what the kids' names are. With CRM, I guess the question for the vendors is, with CRM, do you see a future where you can personalize that, where if you have a salesperson taking pictures with the customers, if that is something we could incorporate that with the CRM? Not just popping up a date of birth and saying, hey, happy birthday, let's make that phone call. How do we incorporate, our pictures? Because I do have 600 pictures. One thing that my dealer principal encouraged me when I first started was, Monty, you bring that personal experience to the customer, they will remember you for life. But the CRM that we use currently does not support that. And do you see that in the future where it would support a personal experience like that?
Okay, so let's start with Jacques, and just give the team a short answer on how you envision CRM creating a more sustainable, interactive, personal experience.
Well, part of your challenge is gathering the data. There's going to be new interface devices like Google Glass, where your salespeople could be equipped with that. There'll be face recognition that automatically gets plugged back into the CRM. There'll be increasing integrations with social media to the CRM. So not only will your salespeople be taking notes about that person, your CRM could potentially be updated by that person's Facebook profile. So those are some of the things in the horizon.
Okay. Hunter?
Yeah, I think integrating social media, apart from social media like Facebook, but just the social aspect of interacting with your customers has to be an integral part of your CRM. Little things like being able to, look to see if they're on Facebook, not necessarily to market to them or to do anything, but maybe even just to see if we have a mutual friend and say, oh, you know what, we share this person, I sold him a car. Being able to leverage social interactions. I mean, if you think about going back to those first, second generation car sales, it was all about relationships. It was all about social, about who you knew and the small town referrals. We've kind of got away from that, but I think with social media, it's helping us to get back, and I think the CRM is an important part to that.
You ask about now, though. Most of us, I think, already have the capability, I know we have for over 10 years, where you can add a picture of your customer right at day one of the relationship as you build the rest of your profile on them, whether it's their favorite sports team, kids, you can put it into the system. My call center gathers information and adds it into the system. So, I mean, is there more you're looking for than that? Immediately?
Well, similar to that is what we have with our current CRM. Obviously, that will have the capability in the sense that uniquely you're connecting a first name, a John Smith, to John Smith buying a car from Dave in 2008, the same John Smith coming in buying a car from Dave in 2010, and the same John Smith coming in, buying a car from Dave in 2012. What Dave has done a good job of is taking a picture the first time, the second time, a third time, and when that person is shopping again for the fourth vehicle, you have a web lead or a contact that goes out, that comes into the store, and you have this automated email that goes out saying, hey, 1, 2, 3 pictures of the last 3 purchase experience there at the store. Why would you shop somewhere else? The CRM right now doesn't have that, and I think in future, if you had that capability with video, with pictures, I mean, that's where you have to go, and because that's where we're all going. It's easy as taking a cell phone cell phone out and taking pictures with that. So.
Sean, how is your vision of making CRM more personable helping dealers plan for the future?
Well, it's behavior analytics. I mean, that's really where it comes down to. Today, we set up processes based on generic concepts. The future of CRM is the data itself will change the processes based on the user experience and the velocity of the road to the sale. Monty, you said it right. Where are these things? Many of these CRMs have it. Like Hugh said, we've had social integration for more than 3 years, right? You can take the pictures, you can send the video, but it's more than that. The real challenge, I'd say back to you, Monty, is why are you waiting 3 years to re-engage the customer when they come back in? Good CRM should be proactive the whole way through, right? You don't wait for the customer to come back. Good dealers today are proactively always trying to manage a relationship. You can't always expect the relationship to go your way. But if you truly do what's in benefit of the customer, and you make it easy for the customer, right, and we capture these pictures and things like that, the whole process will become better. But it's really about the relationship. And how do I develop a relationship? How do you sell me versus sell Hugh? It's knowing the differences between us. It's knowing the data points, the interactions, what gets him excited, what gets us excited, and being able to leverage that. And ultimately, the tools that you're seeing now, and they're already doing this today, okay, the behavioral analytics will take the data points and start to change the processes and follow-ups predicated on that person, not that group of people. It will become a one-to-one relationship. I hate to say this to any mass marketers in the room, but mass marketing's been dead for years. They're the only ones that haven't told you that.
I want to make a comment about my observations traveling and working with dealers. And I want this to be a challenge because it's just a few minutes to lunchtime. And you reminded me of your comment. Are you happy with your CRM system? Okay. I bet if you did the math, the limitations of your CRM through maybe outdated technology, you mentioned server technology, lack of flexibility, lack of mobile integration, that you are so blinded by that contract. I'm spending $2,000 a month on CRM. It sucks. No one in the dealership likes it, but I got 2 more years left on the contract, and I'm going to wait until that contract. I believe if you focused on becoming CRM-centric, if you really understood today's shopper is demanding a personalized instant experience, that you cannot allow your team to let processes fall through the cracks. You need sophisticated CRMs that will alert you and step in for you, whether it's a phone call or an email. Ladies and gentlemen, if you had to leave today, the future of the CRM, in my opinion, is to realize how many hundreds of thousands of dollars you are losing because you're not CRM-centric. You've used a stupid contract to hold you back. It's your crutch. It's your excuse. Oh, if we change CRM, there'll be mutiny. Yet you'll look at your statement and say, Brian, hey, Brian, we got to cancel SEO this month. We're cutting back on our budget, and you're on the chopping block. And then I say, oh, yeah, what about the $6,000 in leads you're not responding to? I listened to your phone calls, and you're telling me that no one likes the CRM, but yeah, that's the best way to cut is your $1,000 on SEO. There are tremendous companies in this room, in the exhibit hall, that have amazing, exciting CRM. If you are one of those people who are not happy with your CRM, know your team is not following process, you don't have the tools to engage today's consumer, I would say the future of CRM is in your hands today. You may be the biggest roadblock, dealer principal, general manager. Your own prejudices. Maybe you're not a social media user. You're not a tweeter. You hate writing emails yourself, and you've dumbed down your whole system because of your own prejudice. I want to challenge you today that the future of CRM is in your hand. If it's all about process, training and technology and innovation, ask yourself, are you holding your dealership back? And if you are, then I would just challenge you today, while you're here in Vegas, when the industry experts are here, that exhibit hall has, I think, 8 different CRM platforms. Learn about them, engage, but don't hold yourself back. It's lunchtime. Would you please give our panel of experts a big round of applause?